Orhan Veli Kanik wrote, "Something is falling from your hand to the ground. It must be a rose." I am listening to Istanbul with my eyes closed. Hello once again, I'm Don Jackson. I've been dropping a lot of little things lately. Not hints or clues, no, material things like car keys, mail, vegetables I'm chopping for meals. I feel like I have a bout of what they used to call Butterfingers. You know, there's even a candy bar by that same name. During this webcast, from the heartbeat of the internet, we can learn a lot from what drops or slips from our hands. And yes, chandeliers occasionally do fall in a most spectacular way. I ran across this on the internet some years back, and I quote, "In a university commencement address several years ago, Brian Dyson, CEO of Coca-Cola Enterprises at the time of this writing, spoke of the relation of work to one's other commitments. This is what Dyson said. Imagine life as a game in which you are juggling some 5 balls in the air. You name them work, family, health, friends, and spirit. And you're keeping all of these in the air. You will soon understand that work is a rubber ball. If you drop it, it will bounce back. But the other 4 balls, family, health, friends, and spirit, are made of glass. If you drop one of these, they will be irrevocably scuffed, marked, nicked, damaged, or even shattered. They will never be the same. You must understand that and strive for balance in your life." End quote. Khalil Gibran in The Prophet wrote, "Verily, you are suspended like scales between your sorrow and your joy. Only when you are empty are you at standstill and balanced. When the treasure keeper lifts you to weigh his gold and his silver, needs must your joy or your sorrow rise or fall." Sometimes a crumb falls from the tables of joy. Sometimes a bone is flung. To some people, love is given. To others, only heaven. That's aptly titled Luck by Langston Hughes. Pretty good description, if you ask me. Happiness is like a crystal, fair and exquisite and clear, broken in a million pieces, shattered, scattered, far and near. Now and then, along life's pathway, some shining fragments fall, but there are so many pieces, no one ever finds them all. You may find a bit of beauty or an honest share of wealth, while another just beside you gathers honor, love, or health. Vain to choose or grasp unduly, broken is the perfect ball, and there are so many pieces, no one ever finds them all. Yet the wise, as on they journey, treasure every fragment clear, fit them as they may together, imaging the shattered sphere, learning ever to be thankful, though their share of it is small, for it has so many pieces, no one ever finds them all. Happiness by Priscilla Leonard. A Native American and his friend were in downtown New York City, walking near Times Square in Manhattan. It was during the noon lunch hour, and the streets were filled with people. Cars were honking their horns. Taxicabs were squealing around corners. Sirens were wailing. and the sounds of the city were almost deafening. Suddenly, the Native American said, "I hear a cricket." His friend said, "What? You must be crazy. You couldn't possibly hear a cricket in all of this noise." "No, I'm sure of it," the Native American said. "I heard a cricket." The Native American listened carefully for a moment, then walked across the street to a big cement planter where some shrubs were growing. He looked into the bushes beneath the branches, and sure enough, he located a small cricket. His friend was utterly amazed. "That's incredible," said his friend. "You must have superhuman ears." "No," said the Native American, "my ears are no different from yours. It all depends on what you're listening for." "But that can't be," said the friend. "I could never hear a cricket in this noise." "Yes, it's true," came the reply. "It depends on what is really important to you. Here, let me show you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a few coins and discreetly dropped them on the sidewalk. And then, with the noise of the crowded street still blaring in their ears, they noticed every head within 20 feet turn and look to see if the money that trickled on the pavement was theirs. "See what I mean?" asked the Native American. "It all depends on what's important to you." The writer of this piece goes on to ask, what's important to you? What do you listen for? Hot sun, salty air, rhythmic waves. A little boy is on the beach. On his knees, he scoops and packs the sand with plastic shovels into a bright red bucket. Then he upends the bucket on the surface and lifts it. And to the delight of the little architect, a castle tower is created. All afternoon he will work, spooning out the moat, packing the walls. Bottle tops will be sentries, popsicle sticks will be bridges. A sandcastle will be built. Big city, busy streets, rumbling traffic. A man is in his office. At his desk, he shuffles papers into stacks and delegates assignments. He cradles the phone on his shoulder and punches the keyboard with his fingers. Numbers are juggled and contracts are signed, and much to the delight of the man, a profit is made. All his life he will work, formulating the plans, forecasting the future. Annuities will be sentries. Capital gains will be bridges. An empire will be built. Two builders of two castles, they have much in common. They shape granules into grandeurs. They see nothing and make something. They are diligent and determined. And for both, the tide will rise, and the end will come. Yet that is where the similarities cease. For the boy sees the end, while the man ignores it. Watch the boy as the dusk approaches. As the waves near, the wise child jumps to his feet and begins to clap. There is no sorrow, no fear, no regret. He knew this would happen. He is not surprised. And when the great breaker crashes into his castle and his masterpiece is sucked into the sea, he smiles picks up his tools, takes his father's hand, and goes home. The grown-up, however, is not so wise. As the wave of years collapses on his castle, he is terrified. He hovers over the sandy monument to protect it. He blocks the waves from the walls he has made. Salt water soaked and shivering, he snarls at the incoming tide. "It's my castle," he defies. The ocean need not respond. Both know to whom the sand belongs. And I don't know much about sandcastles, but children do. Watch them and learn. Go ahead and build, but build with a child's heart. When the sun sets and the tides take, applaud, salute the process of life, and go home. When your children were young, did they ever serve you breakfast in bed? Mother's Day or Father's Day, perhaps? I like the message in this story, and I quote, "6-year-old Brady decided one Saturday morning to fix his parents' pancakes. He found a big bowl and spoon and pulled out the heavy flour canister, spilling it on the floor. He scooped some of the flour into the bowl with his hands, mixed in most of a cup of milk, and added some sugar, leaving a floury trail on the floor, which by now had a few tracks left by his kitten. Brady was covered in flour and getting frustrated. He wanted this to be something very good for Mom and Dad, but it was getting very bad. He didn't know what to do next, whether to put it all into the oven or on the stove, and he didn't know how the stove worked. Suddenly, he saw his kitten licking from the bowl of mix and reached to push her away, knocking the egg carton on the floor. Frantically, he tried to clean up this monumental mess, but slipped on the eggs, getting his pajamas white and sticky. And just then, he saw Dad standing at the door. Big crocodile tears welled up in Brady's eyes. All he'd wanted to do was something good, but he'd made a terrible mess. He was sure a scolding was coming, but his father just watched him. Then, walking through the mess, he picked up his crying son, hugged him. We try to do something good in life, but it turns into a mess. Our marriage gets all sticky, or we insult a friend, or we can't stand our job, or our health goes sour. Sometimes we just stand there in tears because we can't think of anything else to do. But just because we mess up, we can't stop trying to make pancakes for others. Sooner or later, we'll get it right, and then they'll be glad we tried. I thought this very appropriate for this webcast. John Kiesler, published by McNaught Syndicate, wrote, and I quote, "Imagine this scene. A formal, stuffy affair is being held in a swank ballroom. The orchestra puts forth measured music, and people dance slowly, correctly. Suddenly, a man is seen standing on a balcony above, glaring down. A pompous, heavy-set figure who gives off vibrations of disapproval, disdain, and a certain fearsome, if overdone, dignity. The music falters and fades out. The dancers stop. Arrogantly, the man starts to descend the beautiful curving staircase. At the first step, he slips and falls on his derriere. A snicker or two is heard, quickly controlled. He keeps falling, clumpity-clump. More muffled laughter, for he is doing one of the world's greatest pitfalls. Now, somersaulting down, he careens off the wall at the second landing and keeps falling. People roar. He reaches the bottom of the staircase. The crowd is howling with mirth and slides out on the polished floor. He is dead. When you figure out at exactly what step of the stairway it quit being funny, you will know what humor is. And finally, a poem by Nanterrell Reid. Two vases stood on the shelf of life as love came by to look. One was of priceless cloisonnier, the other of solid common clay. Which do you think love took? He took them both from the shelf of life. He took them both with a smile. He clasped them both with his fingertips and touched them both with caressing lips and held them both for a while. From tired hands, love let them fall, and never a word was spoken. One was of priceless cloisonnier, the other of solid common clay. Which do you think was broken? Good night, sweet dreams. I'm Don Jackson.